Okay, so let's kickstart today's session, right? So for those of you guys who just joined us, we are doing the live analysis session for today. So we will be taking a look at chart setups and also reviewing the setups that were made on Friday. Okay, so just a quick introduction of myself. I'm Lee Sing. I provide FX advisory to institutional clients. If you guys are watching a recording of the sessions that were done previously, and if you have any questions on that, feel free to reach out to me on LinkedIn. If not, you can also, if you're with us live, right, do put your questions down under the questions chat. So just a quick disclaimer, right? The information presented here is not to be treated as investment advice, and it's for educational purposes only. So this is the agenda that we will be covering for today. We will first start off with the key economic events and followed by the trade setups, as well as a review of the setups that were done last Friday. And then following which we will be opening the floor to Q&A. So if you guys have any questions, if there are any chat requests, right, do put your questions under the questions chat. So before we hop on to our trade review, right, let's take a look at the setups. Let's take a look at the economic calendar. Right, so for economic calendar, there are a few websites that you can use, right? So usually you can either go to vantagemarkets.com or you can just use Forex Factory. So either one works. So in this case, right, let me just bring out the economic calendar. So the economic calendar is important in helping us to keep track of the major news releases. Okay, so this is the economic calendar. In this case, I'm on Forex Factory. You can just go or just Google Forex Factory economic calendar. And in this case, it shows you the different currencies that are impacted, right? As well as the extent of the impact. So the ones in red or orange are the ones with high and medium impact. So if you do want to filter, you can also filter them according to the impact, right? So we only want to focus on the high and medium impact ones. So you can see coming up today, coming up we have the dollar data, right? So mainly revolving around dollar for today as well as Aussie tomorrow. So these are the key ones, right, for that we have coming up today. So this is the economic calendar, right? So key data that I usually look at would be on dollar, of course, apart from the interest rate decisions, right? So your FOMC meeting, RBA, Bank of Canada, right? So all the central bank interest rate decisions, those will have some volatility on the currency. Others would be, for example, like your GDP data, your retail sales data, or even your jobs data, right? So for example, US non-farm payroll data, that would be the first Friday of every month. So those are things to watch out for, right? So how you can take a look at this is that it's basically the previous result, right? So depending on whether it's the previous month, right, or the previous annual, right? So annual data. So you can also compare the forecast. So generally, if prices did better than expected, so let's say if we're talking about inflation, for example, right? So if inflation numbers turn out better than expected, then there could be more hawkish expectations on central banks to raise rates. But if inflation eased, right? So for example, US inflation, it stood at 6.5% in December. So in this case, right, if inflation data eased, then this could have less expectations that the Fed would be as aggressive in raising rates, right? So then that itself have a negative impact on the dollar. So those are key data to watch for. Right, so let's take a look at the review, right? So for the review, we have mainly on dollar index, Aussie dollar, as well as gold. So let's take a look at those. Okay, so for the review itself, I'll just hop on to TradingView. So you can take a look at TradingView, and basically let's take a look at how dollar it's like. So you can see that on the higher time frame, on your monthly, on your weekly, right, dollar is sitting on a resistance turn support level. We saw how price reacted to this as both a resistance, right? We saw a rejection of it twice over here, and price broke above it, retested as a support. In line with this, we also did a Fibonacci retracement of the move, taking the low here and the high over here. And we found that there's a 50% Fibonacci retracement in line with this area. So this is on the bigger picture. If you take a look at the daily time frame, you can see that dollar is still showing bearish order flow in terms of market structure. It's showing your lower lows and lower highs. It also broke below the last low, right? So back on Wednesday, right, we saw price broke below this level, retested as a resistance, and it went deeper into this monthly support region that we have here. So this is the monthly support area, right? Let me just remove this. So this is just a gauge of it, but you can see that this is the monthly support area. Basically, this whole region that was the previous resistance turn support area here. So this is the area to watch, right? So when we are on the daily time frame, you can see that right now prices are testing the 50% retracement. We're also seeing some smaller sideways movement. If you're on the H4, you can see this as well, right? So basically, you can see that this is the new high that's being formed on the H4. If prices were to continue its bearish move downwards, you can see that it will continue forming your lower lows and lower highs. If not, right, a break, this is the last high that's being formed. So a break of this high itself could signify more upside. So if price breaks above this high, right, this is the last high that we have on the H4, you can see that if price breaks above this level, we could see a deeper pullback within this leg. So this is the last leg, right? So if price breaks above, we could see a deeper pullback back into this. This is the first resistance. So if you extend this area, you can see that this is still the resistance area. If not, right, it'll be deeper into this area here. So this is the resistance turn support level. Okay, so these are the areas to watch. And then the next resistance that you have, it's this higher level where we saw how price reacted as a resistance here. And then again at this area. So these are the levels to watch. Where we are right now on the 4 hours, or even if you were to go down to the 1 hour time frame, you can see that right now prices are consolidating. It's moving sideways here, right? So if we see a clear break above this high on the H1, we could see bullish order flow or bullish market structure starting to form. And this would be a resistance area to watch, right? But once we see a break of this high, I think we could expect a deeper pullback within this whole leg itself. So which means that we could see a bigger pullback, right, into a resistance area here, right? So when price breaks above this resistance, this area here, this would be the upside confirmation level for us to see more upside in the dollar. If it doesn't, then in this case, you can see that this support level, right, on the higher time frame might not hold and price could just continue much lower. So this is the view on dollar index. Okay, and then the next one that we have, it's on Aussie dollar. So let's take a look at Aussie dollar. Okay, so again, Aussie dollar on the higher time frame first, right? So the reason why we're going onto the higher time frame is because we want to find if prices are sitting on any key levels and use that as a guide in terms of our direction. So that's why we are going onto the higher time frame. So we start our analysis from the higher time frame down, right? So that is the idea. Right, so in this case, you can see that this is on the weekly time frame. Prices are on a resistance zone. If you go on to the daily time frame, you see pretty much the same thing, right? Higher lows and higher highs that are being formed. And on the 4 hours time frame, you can see that this is the last region that we have. So we previously marked this out on the 4 hours, right? So essentially, we saw how price broke above it and then retested as a support region. This was also the previous resistance turn support area here. And in line with that, if you do a Fibonacci retracement, you can see that from low to high, it lines up with the 61.8 and 100% extension. And also there is an ascending trend line that's being formed. So in terms of the smaller time frame, right, even though prices are sitting on this potential resistance area, you want to see the smaller time frame. So we're trying to find if there are any reversal on the smaller time frame right now. In terms of the 4 hours time frame, you can see that it's still forming higher highs and higher lows. So it's still showing you bullish market structure. So in this case, right, at least on Aussie dollar on your 4 hours picture, it's not showing any signs of reversal. So you can see that it's not only it's holding above your ascending trend line, it's respecting the previous support level, and also more importantly, it broke the previous high as well. So what this shows us is that this is the low that's being formed on the 4 hours. This is the last low that we have that's being formed. So if we want to wait for a change in structure, we are waiting for a break of this low here. So this low stands at about 0.6930 level. So this is the low, right? So essentially we're waiting for a break of this area. Once price breaks below this zone, what this shows us is that there is a potential change in the direction of the trend, right, on the 4 hours time frame. And understanding the fractal nature of markets, right, which means that if we do see a push up and then a pullback within this area itself, right, within the whole leg itself, you can see that when there is such a case, right, so what happens is that when we see this move within the bullish move up, there is actually on the smaller time frame a bullish market structure, and at some point in time you can see that on the downtrend you'll be showing you a bearish market structure. So which is why how we determine the reversal on the higher time frame, it's based on the smaller time frame, the change in structure, the break of the last low, right? And then that helps us to understand that prices could potentially be coming to a resistance area, and we're seeing a respect of this resistance zone. Okay, so that's the same idea. So now, right now, we're on the higher time frames resistance. But how do we know whether this resistance is going to hold? It's when the smaller time frame, right, this area, you can see the higher lows, higher highs. So when price stops forming this, right, and it breaks below the last low, that's the first sign that prices are currently respecting this area, right? And also you have enough sellers to push price lower. There is a change in market structure, which could then suggest a change in direction of the trend. So this is on Aussie dollar right now where it is, right? This is the downside confirmation level, this low that we have over here. Okay, so if price breaks below this level, we could see further push down. If you go on to the 1 hour time frame, so zoom in further, you can see on the 1 hour time frame as well, right? Very clear pictures of higher lows, higher highs. Even if you put it into a line chart, you can see just mark out the significant reversal point. You can see that prices are still forming your higher lows and higher highs. Okay, so this one, at least on the 4 hours, the 1 hour, it's still showing you bullish order flow, right? So if we do see a pullback, right, a break below this area, right, which is at around 0.6930, could suggest a change in the trend. So this is on Aussie dollar, right? And the next one that we want to take a look at, it's on gold. Okay, so again, go from the higher time frame first. So as usual, right, we start from the weekly time frame or even the monthly time frame. In this example, you can see on the weekly, this was the weekly supply region, right? And right now prices are testing this area. If you go on to the daily time frame, you can see on the daily time frame, right? This was the previous area, resistance turn support area, this gray zone that we have over here. So essentially what this means is that we saw significant reversal of this point. Price came in, we saw the hesitation where there is this bearish candle, right? So showing us some selling pressure before price broke above it. So this is on the daily time frame. If you're on the 4 hours time frame, you can see that if I were to scroll slightly to the left, right, this was the previous supply area. On the 4 hours, right, even if to extend this level across, you can see that this was basically the previous resistance and support area. So if I were to extend this area across, you can see this zone essentially, right? So seeing how price reacted here as a support and then failing it as a resistance. And right now, when price came to test this level as well, right, we saw the slight acknowledgement before it broke above. So previously on gold itself, right, we were here. I believe we're on the 1 hour time frame. So this was the picture on gold, right? So back on Friday, right, we saw this move. So essentially go on the daily picture, right? It's sitting on this daily resistance area. So you can see that gold has been on an uptrend, and we highlighted this demand areas, which price came in, right, tested and supported this level. We also saw a swap of the previous low that broke structure. When we came into this level, right, this is on the daily picture. You can see that on the daily picture, right, price came in and essentially tested this region. So back on Friday, right, we were sitting here. So essentially prices were here, and you can see that again, right, coming into this resistance area, right, in order for more confirmation to play to the downside, right, that's when we go on to the 5 minutes time frame. So you can actually see how this concept actually applies across the different time frame. So on the 5 minutes time frame, you can see once again, right, coming into this supply region, right? So this is the daily resistance area, this blue zone that we have over here. Right, so this is the daily resistance area, and the purple area that we highlighted on Friday, right? This is basically the support or demand area. So essentially, we're waiting for a break below this area, right? And then this was the target price, and this was the partial profit. So at this area, essentially, you want to shift to either break even, right, or protect the position. The reason for that is because of how prices reacted previously. You can see that it was a resistance, right? And we saw a strong break even before that, right? Price actually acknowledged this resistance area before we saw that strong break above. So when price came into this region, you can see that there's this slight hesitation before we see a further push down. So this is the zone, right? So if you're waiting for a breakout, right, a break and close below, you can see that price did not actually retest. So depending on how you take this, right? If you want to take it from market order, then this would have worked. But if you're waiting for a break and a retest, you can see that this area might not have been tested again as a resistance. And then following which, right, price came in, pushed to the demand area. So this was the demand area that we've highlighted on Friday, right? And then you can see that following that, price just continue higher, and it's in line with its higher time frame, right? Because higher time frame is still more bullish, and price pushed further and further up, right? And right now it's testing this resistance zone here. So the one in gray, you can see here. So price pushed into the resistance area, and you can see on the 5 minutes time frame, right, or even the 15 minutes time frame. Over here, you can see that there is bearish move, right? So again, right, this push down, if you're on the smaller time frame, you can see that it actually forms you a bearish move, lower lows, lower highs that are being formed. Okay, so you can see this again, right? So lower lows, lower highs, mark out the reversal point, right? You can see this, that's how it's working out. So right now, if you're on the bigger picture, right, if you're on the 4 hours or if you're on a 1 hour time frame, you can see that this is basically that pullback. And right now, prices are testing this area again. So where we are currently, right, given that prices reverse off a resistance area, it's forming a new structure or a new low that we have over here, which is basically this low. If you're on the 1 hour picture, right, you can see that this is basically the resistance area. There was the previous resistance turn support area here. So again, right, how you can take a look at this, right, just identify a horizontal level which segregates price neatly across. You can see this area here, right? So essentially it splits price nicely to top and bottom half, right? And even if you're putting it in line chart, you can see as well, right? So basically there's this horizontal line that you can divide the chart neatly across. So this is one supply region, right? And if you're to take a look at the supply region, right, just using Fibonacci retracement to see if we can actually highlight this price level. This is the push down and the reversal. So essentially you can highlight this high and this low, right? So taking a Fibonacci retracement of this move, highlighting the high and the low, you can see that in this area itself, the 61.8 retracement, it's currently in line with the resistance area here. So this is one, right? So something to watch. So again, if price comes into this region, right, how do we know whether this is going to be a reversal? So in this case, we're on the 15 minutes time frame, right? So on the 1 hour time frame, you can see that price came into a resistance area. If you're on the 15 minutes, or even if you want to go further, right, on the 5 minutes, notice that at least in terms of structure, prices are still forming higher highs and higher lows, right? So even if you put it in line chart, you mark out the significant reversal point, you can see that it's still forming a higher highs and higher lows. So when do you know whether it's going to hold? Is when there is a change in structure, there's a break of this last low, right? So this is the area for me to watch, right? So you can see that this is the demand region here. So this is the last demand area. So if price breaks below this level, right, then it shows that we could be seeing some kind of respect of this higher time frame supply region. So this one means the downside confirmation level, right? So this is the area. If you want to be even more conservative, right, you can see that this whole leg itself, right, if you're to mark it out in terms of structure, in terms of the leg of this move, right, you can see that this is a high, price pullback, form a new high, pullback, and right now we're seeing a further push up. So you can either wait for a break of this area itself, which is this support area here, or if you want to wait for a higher time, a bigger break, right, then it will be this low here essentially, because this is the last low that you can see over here that broke the structure. You can see that this whole push up, right, you can classify this as a whole move up. So which is why this would be, if you want to be more conservative, right, this would be the downside confirmation level. So this stands at around 1911.30. Okay, so these are the areas, right? So when price breaks below this level, you can see that the next support region that you can target would be this area here. Again, right, just in terms of how price reacted to it as both a support resistance, right? This is on the 5 minutes picture. So if we do see a push down from here, we could be seeing a further push down into this support area. If you're on the 15 minutes time frame, you can see that this, if price forms a new structure, right? This is the new low. Then if we see any pullback itself, we can target the previous resistance and support area, which is basically here. So this area, if we extend it across, again, you can see how price reacted to this as both a resistance and then as a support level. Okay, so this is the picture on gold. Right, so there's one more setup that I want to show you, right? So apart from just dollar index and gold, right? So we did the new setup on dollar index and gold. You can see that dollar index is still sitting on the monthly support area. So if I go back to dollar index, you can see dollar index, right? If you're on the higher time frame on the monthly picture, it's still sitting on the support area here, right? Resistance and support area, but at least on the 4 hours or daily, right? There isn't any change in structure, right? To show that this support area is going to hold. So right now on dollar index, we need a break of the last high, which is at around 102.90. If there's a break of the last high, it could push and show that there's further upside. Right, so this is on dollar index. If you take a look at gold, it's pretty much sitting on a key level as well, right? So again, we're waiting for some kind of confirmation on the smaller time frame in order for the reversal. Right, so if not, price could just continue much higher. So this is on gold, right? And then let me just hide this indicators, right? And then the next one that I want to show would be on euro dollar. So on euro dollar itself, let's take a look at euro dollar. Okay, so if you're on euro dollar, you can see that on the weekly picture, this is the weekly area, right? So again, you can highlight it based on specific zones or specific candles, right? It's really up to you. And in this case, you can see that even if I have to stretch this area across, you can see how many times price interacted with this area as both a support and resistance level. If you put it in line chart, you can also draw a horizontal line across that basically divides this chart very neatly. So if I were to put this in a different color, let's put this in red, right, or pink. You can see that here, right? Essentially, it divides prices very neatly in half. Right, so prices are currently sitting on this area, right? Or you can take it based off a specific candle. So in this case, right, if it's based off a specific candle, then it will be basically this candle here, right? For me, it's this candle because this is the candle that is still within the wick of its previous candle. So this area, right? So this is on a weekly picture. Again, if you have to go on to the daily or the 4 hours, you can see that right now, right? It's still holding above the ascending trend line. That's one. Let me just remove this, right? So the idea is that it's in a supply region on the higher time frame, but on your 4 hours picture, it's still holding above the ascending trend line, right? If you're on the 1 hour, you can see that right now prices are consolidating in this area, right? It's moving sideways here. In terms of the demand region, you can see that this is the last support area here on the smaller time frame. So this is actually the 1 hour. You can see how price interacted, right, as a demand and then tested this region and broke above. So for me, as long as price holds above this demand area, we could still see more upside. If we want to see a reversal from here, we need to wait for a break of this low, right? So probably for price to do something like that, retest of it before it continues down. So in this case, right, this is basically the support level for me, right, to watch. A break of this low, this would be at about 1.070. So a break of this low would show us that there's more downside. So this is the area, right? So this would be my downside confirmation. So we need a break and close below this level in order for a further break. A further push down. In terms of the 4 hours or 1 hour picture, right, you can see that where will the next support region be? It'll be this area here again, right? How we determine this, just looking at an area which divides price very neatly across. So if I were to draw a horizontal line, you can see that it divides price very neatly in half here. So it segregates the top and bottom of the chart. So this area, even in line chart, you can see as well, right? So there's this zone where prices are reacting and basically reacting as both a support and resistance here. So this region and then again here and here. Okay, so if price breaks below this level, then we could see a further push down and this would be the area. Okay, so these are the views. This is what we have on euro dollar, right? So if you guys have any questions as well, do put them under the questions chat. Okay, so we went through on dollar index, right? Gold and euro dollar. You can see that all of them are all the pairs that we went through are all dollar denominated. So which means that any movement in the dollar itself can drive this prices. Okay. All right, so I see that we have no questions, right? So if we have no questions, right, that's all that we have for today's session, right? So for the next webinar, you can just go to vantagemarkets.com/webinars to check out the schedule as well as the speakers and the topics that will be covered. If you guys have any questions on the account, right, do feel free to email support@vantagemarkets.com. Okay, so with that, we've come to the end of the session, right? Thanks everyone, as always, right, for staying with us till the end. And for tomorrow, we will be covering on our educational series, so stay tuned for that. So thanks everyone, and we will catch you guys again tomorrow.